Are you?
I think I'm ready. I never really feel ready when we start the
You're
episode.
never ready.
Especially when it feels important, which it feels important every time. And then we get through the episode and I'm like, oh yeah, there was more I wanted to talk about, or...
Yeah, like we just kind of give up because we start too late in the day.
I'd like to start in the morning, but we just piss everyone off early in the morning. It's easier to get away with.
Yeah, I like being loud in the morning.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
really fun. So what's it this time?
Well,
Wait, do the thing before we even tell them what's up.
well, yeah, we're not just abducting the rabbit from childhood and making it race around a track at breakneck speeds for our benefit.
Or doing weird rituals around the rabbit and conjuring forces, intoning Hebrew
Or
into its ears.
We're not just analyzing its blood for midichlorians. We're not just gonna train it how to be the most lethal killing machine in the whole galaxy and then tell it that it's not okay to hump the princess that it's creeping on for the last, before puberty. No.
I guess so.
No, we are going to light that rabbit on fire, cut off like half its limbs, put it in a biosuit, and send it off to kill all the other rabbits on behalf of the Emperor of the Universe, only to have it redeemed by its own kid. We're going to do the whole rabbit.
It would have been way cooler if you said progeny
We're doing-
instead of kid. But
Sure,
yeah.
yeah. But we're doing the whole rabbit. We're doing the whole rabbit.
You guys get it.
Yes. For Star Wars. We're doing Star Wars.
We're doing Star Wars?
Star Wars. Is that how
Alright.
you say it?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Got it.
Do you even Star Wars, bro? Spoiler alerts, it's like,
Yeah.
like 40, 50 years old almost.
There will be way spoilers in this episode for Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. There will be lots of
War
spoilers.
Swords.
So, like, if you did not know that
Hardcores.
Darth Vader was Luke's father, I just spoiled it for you right now. The whole movie. Just don't even watch Star Wars ever.
Forget it.
Just forget it. You
Don't
don't need.
play the video games.
You don't need to know. There's nothing to know.
Yeah, get over it.
It's entirely random. It's all just lasers in space. That's it.
Dude, your dad said the funniest thing about it when like he was telling us the story about when it first came out.
Yeah, apparently his sister Jean was like,
You gotta see this movie. It's the best thing ever.
and he's like,
You mean
All I saw was a guy with a sword and a bathrobe.
and like it's like this King Arthur in space nonsense. Yeah, right. And then he saw it and he was like, yeah, that was really awesome. That was the best ever, you know? Because my dad was he was a door gunner in Vietnam, but he really wanted to be a pilot. Clearly, the Skywalker archetype in the flight suit was just the most badass thing ever. And it maybe always will be.
Might have had some influence on your name.
Well, his father's name was Ben. And then Ben's brother's name was Luke.
That's weird.
I was going to get a Star Wars name no matter
Ben
what.
and Luke seem to be connected in some weird way.
Yeah,
Like,
at
just
least,
the names. Like, has nothing to do with anyone's personalities or anything.
Well,
Just the names.
my grandpa went by the name,
Feel a little raspy.
he went by the name Man. Yeah, my grandpa went by the name Man, which is kind of funny. Everyone just would call him Man. But it
Hey,
was,
man.
Yeah,
They didn't know his name.
it was, Benjamin. Really, so Benjamin, Man. That was his name. He was a cool dude. I didn't really realize this till later, but he painted me this really awesome Lion King painting, and it's got Mufasa and Simba is on his back, and it says Hakuna Matata on the bottom.
Wrong movie, bro.
Well, it's still voiced by James Earl Jones.
Oh, then we can go into Conan a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, no, but we're talking about Star Wars.
Well, where should we start with Star Wars? With
Well, we should start in the chronological beginning. A
I-
New Hope.
A New Hope.
Number 4.
One YouTube video we watched compared Hope to the Grail, and that the search for Luke is a thing that happens, of course, in the newer films. And so he's in that regard, A New Hope is.
Well, his quest for the Force could be the conceptualized as the quest for the Divine Feminine, sort of embodied by Leia, which happens to be his sister, which makes it kind of awkward.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
sure. Yeah, spoilers. They also kiss a little bit.
It's old, like real old. Anyways, so
I think all that family stuff. Can't even get it out of my mouth. The family where they have the weird attraction that makes you think of Egyptian mythology. There, I said it.
Yeah, she does kind of have like a lunar god thing going on, like a lunar goddess freaking archetype about her. Something about her head. It reminds me of a moon.
Well, we'll start with George Lucas himself. The guy said that he had been reading Joseph Campbell and that he was reading a lot of theory about how to write. And he subscribed to the idea that, there's really only like 32 plots you can write. And out of those like 32 different plots, there's only really like 12 stories you get out of it or something. You know what I mean? Like there's only so many stories you can tell once you break each story down into its basic elements. Sort of like
some are better than others.
Sort of like music can be broken down into its fundamental parts, but still you can get a lot of mileage out of those fundamental parts. In the same way you can get a lot of mileage out of the same 32 stories or whatever, which of course does relate to the 32 stations and paths of the Kabbalah.
Yeah, and kind of Kabbalistic everything, because Kabbalah is kind of like everything.
Yeah, and we talked about Kabbalah last episode, so now we're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, so we can nerd out on this stuff like we want to.
And really, Satanism was last episode, but I think with that one, I think we've covered the gamut of stuff we want to. Before we, so now we can talk about movies.
We still have tarot to do, but that's a whole other episode.
So the story is about the Skywalker lineage. We're talking about that series.
Well, okay, so the story is really about R2-D2, and try to prove me wrong, because R2-D2 is like one of the first characters you meet, and then like there's like no movie without R2-D2.
I will concede that's the worst part of The Last Jedi. Is there's not enough R2 in it.
There's not enough R2 in Force Awakens either, because
there's not enough.
It's the R2 saga. Like the entire thing's all about R2.
They had to put in BB-8.
I like BB-8.
Yeah, he's cool.
She's
cool. Is it she?
It's a she droid. I'm sorry. There's just no getting around that. It's R2-D2's girlfriend.
Do droids have to have genders? I don't know. They can.
Especially they're non-binary, so they can be whatever gender we assign them.
Sure.
So like we've all assigned BB-8 girl status, I guess.
Like
because it's a ball, it's round.
Like Wally's a boy, Eve's a girl, right?
Yeah, we all got that.
And that's kind of the argument, is they're both robots, but it's whatever you identify as. So,
yeah.
sure.
I guess if you're a gay couple, you can identify them as whatever you want, but who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
You just look it up on YouTube.
Well, let's analyze Luke Skywalker's name, because I don't know where else to start. Because my name's Luke. You watch Star Wars as a kid, it kind of gets into your head. So that's why I'm interested in the topic, and why I got so into Star Wars in my 20s in the first place. So let's analyze the name. Luke. What does the name Luke mean?
What does Luke mean?
It just means light.
Okay.
And then you got Skywalker. Well, that's easy enough, right? You get the image of somebody who can...
He's a flyer. He flies. He's a pilot.
He's a pilot. He flies through the sky, moves through the sky. Maybe somebody who walks
through the sky. He's a Skywalker. He's a pilot.
Sky could mean the astral or the heavens. Maybe he moves through his imagination.
Through space.
He's
a spacer.
Yeah.
Deep down.
And in The Last Jedi, he traverses space and time through his projection. So that's also him like completing his namesake as a Skywalker, able to bilocate pretty much. That's one way you could put a little bow on his departure in episode 8. Oh yeah, well I mean we're talking about Luke Skywalker's name first of all. So we're discussing Luke as an archetype.
So who's the hero?
He's the hero of the movie. Luke Skywalker.
All right. So we're talking about the hero in the hero's journey. The pre-hero. Who is he before?
Well, there's Anakin before him, but before...
Anakin's a good one, because he's like... Anu is like an Egyptian word for like a solar deity, or like the sun, and then the kin is like a really easy one, which means like child of, or like the children or offspring, or relationship. So... Because
Anunnaki means those who from heaven came, right?
Yeah.
So Anu's like sky.
Yeah.
And
like
Anu
the
kin...
Heavens. Like the Heavenkin. He's supposed to be like the Wunderkin. He's supposed to be like the wondrous one, you know?
So
even his namesake is to be great.
And to be of the sky. And to be godlike.
Yeah.
Well, then there appears to be a curious connection between Horus and the whole Star Wars saga.
Exactly.
And
right. Why don't you explain that a little?
I didn't really fully understand how much Horus was involved in the Star Wars trilogy until we started researching for this episode, so I'm kind of excited to talk about it. Hope we don't run roughshod too bad over it. But basically, Horus is the Egyptian god of the sun, but he has the sun as one eye and the moon as the other. And it's his walking across the sky in 12 steps that keeps the wheel of the sky moving and keeps the sun moving across the sky. He's the original light.
Skywalker.
Yeah, light Skywalker. The god of the light and the Skywalker, who, at the end of the day, slays his granduncle, or
His uncle.
just his uncle, Set, which the redness of the blood causes the setting sun. Of course, the next day, Horus rises from the dark and announces the coming of the dawn and is the Dawnbringer again each morning.
And does it every day.
Does it every day. From the outset, the name Luke Skywalker is personifying the journey of Horus and the duties of Horus as an archetype. So it's kind of like he's destined to be this thing. If you believe in the collective unconscious, then automatically we would make that unconscious or subconscious association just with the name alone. And we would feel automatically connected. Because I think Star Wars is a great place for the whole rabbit to start talking about movies and stuff, because Star Wars is arguably the most important.
Even though we totally started with Akira.
Oh yeah, we did. You're right.
But this is a good place too.
I'm in the moment, okay? Every episode is the first episode. You know how I feel. That's why I'm nervous every time. So, yeah, Star Wars is... I think Star Wars is arguably the most important fictional story or mythical story in the American lexicon currently.
It is the American mythos. Like, these are our Ulysses and our freaking Hercules.
Like when Captain America woke up from the freeze, he had a list of all these things that he had to, like, learn about in order to be caught up on American culture. And I just remember Star Wars was at the top of the list, and if it wasn't, it's the only one I remember.
Oh yeah, even in my Kung Fu manual, they're like have recommended movies for like martial arts and stuff, and Phantom Menace is even on there for the lightsaber fight.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an important part of our culture.
Yeah, it's there.
And that's why we care so
Yeah.
much. That's why people get so riled up and like mad.
Just don't piss the fans off, and don't try to like do like needless fan service like in Solo. Spoilers.
Oh,
Darth Maul at the very freaking end.
I don't know. I think I just let Star Wars be Star Wars no matter how good or bad it gets.
Well, that's how I went into Last Jedi. Was like, whatever this is Star Wars now.
I think we needed some
And
time.
Solo. Solo wasn't even that bad. Just like the end was a little cringy with, why do you like bust out the lightsaber just to prove that he had one? Like,
Sure.
we all knew it was Darth Maul. We all knew he had a lightsaber, man. Like, come on.
Well, people love Rogue One, so I have to counterbalance it and be like, there's no lightsaber fights really.
Well,
It's not really a Star Wars movie.
okay, like
Okay, except at the end.
The
which,
funny thing about Rogue One is, like, before I ever saw it, I thought Donnie Yen was gonna be like my favorite character because he's like the blind monk.
and
character.
he wasn't?
Oh, dude, he
I
was
thought he
like
was
the
too.
worst, cringiest character in the whole movie.
It's always the thing I think you're gonna like is the thing you hate.
Yeah, it seems that way because he's just so cringy, and like I just don't like his sort of meta abilities. That was just like lame. Skywalker's the hero, right? We're doing the first one right now.
There's a blog post, Myth Made Man, and you can go there by mythmademan.blogspot.com, and it's a post Saturday,
Shout
November.
out.
Yeah, shout out. It's on Saturday, November 14th, 2015. The author is Kevin Kimmich, and it's a really great article.
Yeah, good on you, buddy.
It pointed out a dichotomy here between Luke and Han, which I had not considered, which I think is very cool. And it typifies Luke as solar and Han as lunar. And it cites Luke's outfit, his orange, fiery outfit that he wears in the X-Wing. And then the X-Wing itself as a shape of the phallus, with the X also representing the solar cross. And his, by the book, sort of, his innocence, essentially, equates him with the sun, I guess. And then Han's ship is the Millennium Falcon, which looks like a lunar disc. It's even got like little craters in it, and everything is rounded in it. And it is a counterbalance to the X-Wing in that regard. And then Han also wears like the gray colors of the moon. He's a little more...
He's got like a white, like an off-white, and then like black.
He's a
on.
little...
Like, you know, he's got like the sort of the black-white dichotomous freaking look about him.
Yeah. He's dark, he's light, he runs the gamut. We
all know he shot first. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
You can edit and try to like deep fake us, but we have memories. Deep, deep memories. It's in our DNA.
But
Han
we still
shot
have
first.
footage of it. It's not like Scary Movie, I See White People is completely gone from existence. That's some bullshit. Mandela effect is real. Okay, back on topic. The Millennium Falcon, lunar disc. Han does his own thing. He's morally dubious at times. He's sort of gray. What's interesting is
Space cowboy.
well, you got Horus, who is, the god of the light and the sun, but also Horus is said to have one eye, which is the sun, and one eye, which is the moon. And so you have Horus, which is typified by Han Solo and Luke Skywalker as the sun and the moon.
As the two protagonists.
But the boat or the ship in which they do their action is the Millennium Falcon. So there you have it. That's their Kephara, or their ship that they traverse through the heavens to slay Set. That's where we have to kind of, do we start talking?
Well, that's like this, like the cool arc kind of thing. Like they fly around in the arc, which is the moon, which is like the solar arc. It's like a boat. In the Egyptian mythos.
And the moon is like a boat.
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, perfect. Well, and then also this is something I hadn't considered until I read the article, and that's that C-3PO and R2-D2 are sort of a funny shadow of Luke and Han. So brilliant. I mean, C-3PO is obviously Luke because he's solar, and in a sense, he's like a phallic figure that Anakin created, and probably in some way does factor into his creative principle, which emphasizes
That's why he sucks, is because Anakin made him, and Anakin's a bitch.
That's why I like the new movies. There's nothing in the new movies that is as cringy as Anakin trying to get after Natalie Portman. Nothing.
No!
There is
Oh my
nothing
God.
as cringy as that in the new movies. Nothing even close to it.
There's some cringy stuff, but like nothing that bad.
Nothing
You're right.
that bad,
You're right.
man.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you.
I really didn't like when Purple Hair, what's her name?
Oh, third wave feminist. Lieutenant third wave feminist.
I didn't like that after the rebellion that Poe Dameron threw, and after all that stuff, that they basically got the entire rebellion killed, and then Purple Hair's like, I like that one. Are you kidding me?
Well, here's the thing: is that I was thinking about it because I remember hearing about all this political
It's
hype.
funny,
and
but I
nonsense.
don't like it.
Okay, so I was putting off because everyone was saying that it's all super politically charged,
And I tried
watched
to
it.
stay out.
Yeah, straight up. I'm like, I don't really want to see this if it's all charged with political nonsense. But then I watched it and I was like, wow, they blew this way out of proportion. And I was thinking about it while doing research for this one, and it's like, wow, they people who don't agree with that stuff should have liked this movie. One, her bad ideas got the entire freaking Rebel Alliance killed, completely just almost decimated, and then she goes off and kills herself. What's more anti third wave feminist than that? Get over it. That was
Well, this is the thing, is the whole idea of the Illuminati, or the bad Illuminati, the Black Brotherhood, is to, they use good concepts and good ideas to bad ends. They can use anything to make it bad. So, I mean, I like to consider myself a classical liberal. I like to consider myself a feminist. But there's definitely, toxic elements of those things in our society, for sure. And they masquerade as being the good. And
marketing.
I'm never not gonna identify as a true liberal, but I'm gonna say stuff that's probably politically incorrect and would identify me as the other side.
Classic liberal.
Yeah,
not libtard.
I got weird ideas, and I'm not afraid to share them. I'm not afraid to be wrong either, so that's fine with me. I also believe in compassion for. Well, I don't need to talk about my political beliefs. Bah! It's the egregore, man.
Yeah, keep political out of Star
This
Wars.
egregore that is attacking Star Wars needs us to talk about politics. So I'm gonna try and resist the Coranzonic entity of the politics that is invading the most amazingest mythological world. You can really just throw your Bible out.
It was always
just
political.
watch Star Wars.
It was fighting space Nazis.
Don't throw your Bible out.
It's always been fighting space Nazis, real space Nazis, not imaginary space Nazis, real space Nazis. Some that wield are samurais with laser swords.
The Empire is definitely the World War I German Reich, for sure. It couldn't be more obvious to me.
Well, there's all sorts of parallels between Rome and Germany and the Empire. Just like the whole idea of an empire. Even the British Empire. That's why they all speak British, you know? They speak like Brits. It's kinda,
Absolutely, because that sort of aligns them with
I mean, because,
empire, doesn't
yeah,
it?
because we're an English-speaking country. We view English as like the imperial sort of like the English accent as sort of like an imperial accent. That's how we see it. And it does have like a sort of regalness, but it does kind of have like a negative expansionist globalist kind of connotation to it.
And so
At least in our psyches, because we're Americans and we're fucking against that kind of.
And so the Empire and even the First Order is the astral representation of those forces then.
Yes.
And so this is where we get into the idea that, at least to me, Star Wars is as real as the real world. That's why I think people are really involved in it and are easily offended by what happens in it, is because it's stressful to consider that something that is so ephemeral and fictional could have so much weight on the human psyche and maybe even be a mirror of it.
Yeah, these are our gods. These are like literally like our heroes of mythos.
I mean, people, I was just joking about you can just throw out your Bible and keep Star Wars, but to a certain degree, we can really visualize these Star Wars characters and we can really experience the emotive element to their stories really easily. And that makes them very real to us. Robert Anton Wilson says, we live through our fantasies. We merely endure or survive our realities. And I absolutely agree with that. So in a sense, Star Wars for some people is more real than their real life. There are some people who are straight up hanging on right now, who are just not killing themselves purely because Episode 9 is going to come out this December.
Yeah, a lot of soy boys are barely clinging, man, to this world.
And maybe even...
And they got money to spend on some toys. Like, they need to drive, like, all those industries.
And probably some burgers, too.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, what the Japanese call us.
I don't know.
Burgers, which is funny.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, listening to Dan, I got to give a shout out to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast in the Blueprint for Armageddon series, where he, in painstaking detail, tells the story of World War I and his description of the German army moving through, I believe it was Poland?
Poland?
No.
I don't
No,
know enough. I don't know enough about World War I.
Shoot, I'm messing this up. Anyway, the image of the German army marching early on in their march before they saw combat. Apparently, there wasn't like a hair's width between them as they marched for days. And as they marched, like sparks would fly up off the cobblestone, and they just marched in perfect mechanized rhythm. And when I heard that description, I was like, where have I seen that? Oh, Star Wars. I've seen that in Star Wars.
Well, the term stormtrooper was from World War II with Hitler's methed out freaking soldiers, because that was the thing that they were actually doing, is they were taking like methamphetamines and going off to war and
marching powder.
Yeah, they called it marching powder, or like vitamin K or some shit like that. And they would like basically be all hopped up on methamphetamines going out to war. And if like that theory that drugs pick up on what people do while they're on them and like build an egregore of like what the substance makes you feel and see and do.
So if you ever
They
find
have all
yourself
this Nazi vibration to them.
So if you ever find yourself methed out digging a trench,
Yeah.
you know.
You're in World War II.
You're in World War II, baby.
Yeah, you're on the wrong side of,
Yeah.
of history.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Like, at least in your head, in your experience, you're hoping the Allies don't come.
They're coming right now. Can you hear the knocking at the door?
Yeah, so now that we have like our hero, who is like the Solar Raw figure, in becoming, what's the next step on the hero's journey?
Well, if we're talking about Luke Skywalker, it starts with the call to adventure, which is help us, Obi-Wan.
Help me.
Help me, Obi-Wan. You're our only hope. And it's his hot ass sister. He doesn't know it's
With
his
his
sister.
sexy ass freaking hair buns.
Her sexy ass.
Makes me want a fucking cinnamon roll. Makes Luke fucking thirsty.
I'll take a drink right now. Next on the hero's journey, you get supernatural aid, which is, Obi-Wan.
Well, yeah,
I would
obviously
imagine.
Obi-Wan saving him from the Sand People. That's supernatural aid if ever I've seen it.
And
At
that's
least this is all for A New Hope, because there's a larger arc that we can discuss after this.
And Lucas talked about, what movie was it? What classic samurai movie was it? Assault on...
No, it's Hidden Fortress.
Hidden Fortress. He said...
is the inspiration for the storytelling of...
A New Hope.
And also kind of like the plot, really.
He said
he
that
did kind of ripped it off in very much kind of I'll steal this movie's plot way.
in his own words, he says that Hidden Fortress tells the story through the two lowest characters. And he said that he imitated that with C-3PO and R2-D2 as the two lowest characters.
Yeah,
so.
they're supposed to be like the merchant and the beggar. Is like C-3PO is supposed to be the merchant and R2-D2 is supposed to be the beggar. Just like R2-D2, they're supposed to be like the comic relief.
Well, what's brilliant about that is if it's supposed to be for kids, it's supposed to be a kids movie. That's sort of where, as a kid, it's really easy to relate because they're always being told what to do.
They're always being dismissed for their ideas, even if they have good ones.
Right. And they end up in a world that's very strange, and there's lots of like
Things they don't understand.
there's lots of language that is gibberish to a human. You know, they go through a robot world.
Oh yeah, then like some people can talk to them and understand them, and they know how to talk to each other.
Right.
But people don't necessarily know what they're saying.
Yeah, and there's like a long sequence where it's just robots talking in this weird alien world. I think that was really strong at Star Wars. It just throws you into this almost psychedelic, like, what the hell am I watching?
It's like these robots' world. It's really brutal.
I remember feeling completely immersed as a little kid watching that.
It's like, oh, this is real. Like, there's
Yeah.
people who just roll up and grab that shit.
It felt real. Like, it felt like their plight of getting abducted by those, what were those?
Jawas.
Jawas. That felt really real to me as a little
I'm
kid.
offended you don't know the name.
And then you really did feel like Luke and Obi-Wan were the heroes. Like, you got a breath of fresh air when they showed up. You know, they actually saved you, the little
Like
kid.
the music said it all. Like Luke's music was just like some of the greatest music ever written.
Absolutely, John Williams killed it. It's
Yeah.
always gonna kill it. I guess he's quitting or something. Who knows? They always retire. The Threshold Guardians, you related that to his parents or his aunt and uncle?
Yeah, his Threshold Guardians were basically the people who were holding him back. He's like, oh, I want to go to Tashi Station, pick up power converters. And he's just like, no, I need you to freaking stay here. I need you to freaking work on droids. I need you to stay for Harvest. You can't go to the academy, become a pilot.
Oh, you're right. And then
And she's like, oh, well, maybe he's ready. You know, she was like the feminine force to that. But like still, they were holding the keys to kind of him going. They were what was holding him back. He was even telling Obi-Wan after he got saved, no, I have to stay because of my aunt and uncle.
And in the hero's journey, you kind of cross a threshold at that point, which is the Empire killing his family. And then at that point,
He's got nothing.
he's got nothing. He has to really go on the journey. Then he attains a mentor and a helper, which is Han Solo and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
As well as
Yoda.
C-3PO and R2-D2. At least in the first one, it's C-3PO, R2-D2, Han, Chewie.
The whole cast of
Yeah,
characters,
the whole
essentially,
cast.
who fly around in the Kefra or the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, and they have a quest. They're going to save the princess, right? So like now we have our adventuring party, and they're gonna go storm the dungeon. Well, first they thought they were going to Alderaan, which apparently is a kingdom that's no longer existing
Oh yeah,
because
huh?
it got like blasted out of the sky. Which is like, I mean, that says it all. That's like Leia can't go home ever again. She's on her journey because like, isn't that the thing about the hero's journey is you can never go home, or like you can go and save home, but you can never return to it.
She was actively involved in the rebellion before that, but after that, yeah, because she's royalty on Alderaan, and it's not there anymore, so she's sort of lost everything.
Yeah, she's kind of like royalty without a kingdom.
I'm sure there's some symbolism there. I don't know. Challenges and temptations. Obviously, they're always.
That's the Death Star for like the first one at least. That's them fighting their way through the Death Star. Luke learning about the Force. That's rescuing the princess and dealing with Han and Chewie, because Chewie did not like Luke in the beginning.
Where's the temptation in the first one for Luke? Is there any temptation in the
The
beginning?
temptation was happening from Han in the beginning.
Yeah, because it's all about money or getting away.
Yeah, he's all like, "Come on, kid," bunch of bullshit.
Oh, you're right. He
You
is
know?
always talking Luke out of it.
Yeah, he's trying to talk Luke out of it during the whole beginning part.
And Han is much more experienced than Luke is, so it must weigh heavily on Luke.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a mundane sort of temptation of like kind of giving up. and not seeking that. Just like, okay, let's be alive rather than, be dead heroes.
And even in the end, the temptation to use the targeting computer even, or to not use the Force, or, tempted by the darkness of just the situation itself, the overwhelming odds of the situation.
Yeah.
That kind of goes together. And then Abyss, that's at the nadir of the wheel. Abyss, Death, and Rebirth.
All right, and these are great.
It also says Revelation.
Yeah, these are really great because both Death and Rebirth happen in the Death Star. Because Luke, our hero, our protagonist, he's not just the protagonist, he's actually a hero. And that's a big distinction that people need to get while doing story or like looking at a story is it a hero or is it a protagonist? Indiana Jones, protagonist. Han Solo, protagonist. Luke Skywalker, he's a hero. And our hero actually gets baptized in the Death Star. In the trash compactor.
Because they do end up on the Death Star.
Yeah. After saving Princess Leia and jumping into the trash compactor, which was her idea, she just didn't even think. She just blasted and she's like, all right, let's go. They get down there and Luke's pulled underwater by that weird one-eyed tentacle. Symbolism.
Also reminds me of Coruscant a little bit. The Dweller of the Abyss.
Yeah, so Luke gets kind of baptized in this stinky abyssal depth of like compaction, so this is kind of like total underworld. Like he went down to the underworld and was baptized.
And I suppose his transformation is him blowing up the Death Star.
And he also
or learning to use the Force and then atoning by blowing up the Death Star, you could say.
But you're still skipping over the death, which is obviously Obi-Wan, which sends Luke into a whole new world.
Right.
Where he's just kind of alone, but he still has his friends.
Right.
Which he learned to trust through C-3PO and R2-D2 helping out and saving them.
Right. And then at the end, the gift of the goddess is like the medal he gets, right?
Yeah, because Han Solo and him get them, but Chewie doesn't get one. Why doesn't Chewie get one?
Racist.
Racist
as
fuck.
fuck.
No, it's specious. Specious?
Oh, whatever, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I'm just a human.
Get over it.
Yeah, man.
Wookiees are people too.
We all bleed colors, mostly.
Businesses are not people.
Yeah, people are people.
People are people.
People have freedom of speech.
All right, so that's the hero's journey in the
Episode 4.
Episode 4, A New Hope. But the hero's journey actually makes a bigger arc in the entire first trilogy. And so you have, obviously, Luke Skywalker. The call to adventure is to save the princess. Supernatural aid is learning about the Force and utilizing it to destroy the Death Star. And then there's the Threshold Guardians. The Threshold Guardians were kind of the Wampa and having to leave his friends that he's been relying on.
Yeah, and then go study under Yoda.
And his helpers are R2-D2.
Yeah.
And his mentor is Yoda.
Yeah.
And then the challenges and temptations is obviously his training and the temptations of the dark side.
Yeah, the bigger cycle is definitely more interesting.
Of course, he fails in the temptations. He, went for them to go save his friends. Which, sometimes temptations are good. They seem like a good thing.
Well, it's all part of the hero's journey. That's the idea.
Yeah.
But it also does lead to his ultimate demise, which is where I kind of want to redeem The Last Jedi a little bit and talk about that. Because he does have an attachment to his family. That's what sends him on the journey, and that's exactly how Vader gets him over to the dark side, at least temporarily, in the final. So we're not there yet. So the Abyss, Death, and Rebirth. I feel like that's when he gets his hand cut off.
I am your father.
Revelation, right? That's the revelation of the movie.
Yeah, his death is symbolized by the loss of his hand.
Which Set takes Horus's hand.
Or eye.
Or both.
That's a really rich story. And so Darth Vader is kind of like this Setian character, as well as the fallen Osiris who's become Set.
I think that's what's really interesting about Star Wars is through Star Wars you can see these Egyptian archetypes are each other to some degree, and that makes them like Horus is sort of Osiris also at some point. And if you think of Set, because Set and Horus would both crown the pharaoh in the old hieroglyphics, right? So you can see how they were dual principles of maybe the same force. And when you have Obi-Wan Kenobi telling Luke, Darth Vader killed your father. Darth Vader killed your father. Darth Vader killed your father. It's very much, Osiris became Set. The war between Osiris and Set in the Self, Set is the one who won over Luke's father.
He's more machine than man now.
Right. And also so I guess we could, well, that's in a nutshell, like how Set represents.
And like Luke's whole thing changes after that. His entire demeanor, his entire point of view, his approaches to situations completely just changes.
So that's the transformation that comes after the revelation.
Yeah, now he's Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight. He announces himself to Jabba like that, but like he's not a Jedi yet. Like Darth Vader said it while he was fighting. You're not a Jedi yet.
So he knows he's going through transformation. He knows that much about himself. But then he has to go through atonement, and I think that's the final fight that he goes through with Vader.
Yeah, this is one where he like abandons his friends again. He goes directly into the belly of the beast,
which is something that Rey does in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, because Star Wars rhymes always. It does this rhyming story arc. It's not like replaying the same thing. It's just like doing the same motif.
And his atonement is ultimately of his father, because isn't the prophecy that his father will bring balance to the Force?
Well, his father kind of did by destroying the Jedi. And this is the one thing that most people don't understand, is that the Jedi were the more powerful force in the galaxy when the prophecy was being fulfilled, so they got destroyed. They say, like, someone will come to destroy the Sith, and they will bring balance to the Force. Now, if somebody comes to destroy the Sith, and there's more light side, it doesn't change the fact that he came to destroy the Sith and brought balance to the Force. Like
I could see where you're going with that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like if there's too much light side, you kind of gotta get rid of some of that light side to bring balance to the Force, right? Right?
Sure.
Think about it.
And then, but his son atones for him, or atones him in the end.
But he also fulfills the whole Sith thing by killing his master. So, like, he kind of does do the whole dark ritual as well. So he's kind of caught up in both light and dark at the same time. Like, by fulfilling the Sith ritual, he
fulfills both the dark and the light.
Yeah, and brings balance to both the Force, like, both aspects of the Force at that point.
Yeah, so Anakin / Darth Vader, does bring balance to the Force. He also brings forth Luke, which seems to work towards crystallizing the balance in the Force as the last 3 films continue.
At that very moment, like just before the Emperor just starts like blasting him with fucking voltage and fucking till, he's just writhing in pain, screaming for help, for Daddy to come help him. Emperor Palpatine, okay, so Luke Skywalker during this whole thing has not passed the Jedi trials. He has not completed his training. Darth Vader's like, okay, you made your lightsaber, your training's complete. Like, you have built the thing that you need to do, right? You've done the last step. But he's like, nah, I'm not freaking... He's not really done it. Until Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, says, so be it, Jedi. And, like, knights him. Jedi.
So,
recognize him. He's the most powerful, most evil being, sworn enemy of the Jedi, and says, so be it, Jedi. Pronouncing him a Jedi Knight.
Which is really great, because Luke then is initiated into the Jedi lineage by Palpatine, the Dark Emperor. And Luke also was baptized in the abyss, or the darkness.
He also fulfills the whole Jordan Peterson thing and Jungian concept of going into the underworld to rescue your father. Because that's the whole thing he does. Like, the underworld is represented by the Death Star. Hades is obviously Palpatine.
Yeah.
And at the end, he
God
actually does redeem his father, because his father, like, saves his son, saves his family, which was the whole thing he was trying to do in the fucking first place from episode 3.
Hades is the Lord of Death, and that's sort of, they play into that. Plagueis the Wise is supposed to have power over death. And who's Plagueis the Wise? Is it Snoke? Is it...
No, Snoke. Okay, so Snoke, or spoilers,
we don't know
Gollum
anything.
bit the ring off of Frodo's finger and fell into Mount Doom after putting it on. This created a portal that he fell through and ended up in a different time. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
And that's canon.
That's straight up some canon.
Not lying at all.
There he had all the powers of Sauron after having his soul infused with the bit of Sauron's power that's in the ring, which was Sauron, right? And that's the one thing you have to remember. He had like most of his being in that ring. So he comes into Star Wars with all the powers of Sauron, the Dark Lord, and all the deformity of Gollum. And that's where Snoke comes from.
I'm okay with that.
That's how he became so powerful. He has all that Sauron power. That's how he was able to build such a giant, stupid Star Destroyer. Death Star planet, world, snow world, solar gun.
I love that they kill him. I love that.
Oh, that was good.
I love that.
That was a good way for him to die because he was stupid.
I liked him, but it still won me over.
But I have to say,
I might be the only Rian Johnson fan in the universe at this point.
I have to say, I thought when he was first introduced that he was just this gigantic person.
I think you're supposed to.
And it was so cool that I thought it was like all the video games, like the Knights of, or the Star Wars Old Republic video games where all the bosses are like supersized and your characters look all super tiny next to them. So I thought that, oh yeah, there's giants in Star Wars, you know? That's why the hallways are so big.
Speaking of giants in Star Wars, Luke himself is very much David slaying Goliath with the Death Star having to hit it exactly in the one place.
Oh yeah, that is true. There is that symbolism there.
And when I was a little kid, they sent me to Catholic preschool, but that's as far as I got in terms of Catholic school. I loved that story. That was my favorite Bible story. It was David and Goliath. So naturally, when I saw Luke defeating the Death Star, the reason I rediscovered Star Wars in my 20s was because I felt a gravity psychologically to it. Like maybe I was enacting some of the subconscious stuff that Star Wars had put into me. Because if you really watch the Trench Run, it looks and feels a lot like DJing. At least to me. It looks like they're selecting tracks and trying to line up the tracks and trying to make sure that everything runs like it all runs right, and they have to do the drop at the exact right time. And then even when Darth Vader is like targeting Luke, I have you now, he's like moving these knobs that look curiously like,
oh my god,
live audio, you know, like,
story from my childhood.
And then they rave. You've got the red and the blue lightsabers.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. This is the one thing.
I love this about Star Wars.
Okay, can we before we get there, I got a story about the Trench Run from my childhood.
Okay, sure, go for it.
I remember like being like I was so into Star Wars, I'd be watching Star Wars and like I just hopped into this like kids seat that we had for like a car and like grabbed like this it was like a catcher's mask from like baseball or something. I just put that on and I'm sitting in the seat during the Trench Run and I'm just like acting like I'm going through it. It was just such a blast. Like Star Wars was the shit.
So that's the story of how I think Star Wars, watching it as a kid with the name Luke, subconsciously programmed me to become a DJ. And the connection between rave culture and Star Wars, I think, is somewhat obvious.
Okay, the very first rave was on the deck of the Death Star. It was Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was the very first rave ever.
Well, let's bring up a Fnord and then drop it.
Two old men with lightsabers just spinning them around to dubstep.
Yeah, it's always been old dudes spinning glow sticks to dubstep. It has always been that.
It has always been that. That has been the rave scene forever. Even in Attack of the Clones.
Remember that when Dooku and Dooku...
Yeah, you got Anakin and Dooku
That's
raving.
The best.
Like, they did a rave battle, and Dooku won.
I would love to see
that. Because Dooku's been raving, he's an old-timer. Just like all those old guys. They've just been partying forever.
They know how to do it. And then Yoda comes in, and he's even older.
Yeah, he can rave like no other. He's older than everybody.
Yeah, man, he gets down. I want to see that. I want to see that again. I want to see the blinky lightsaber lights as the only light source in another lightsaber duel. That's my wish. I want to get that because I don't think we're gonna get my Red Baron character, which I want so much, which I think is just Darth Vader anyway. But I digress. Where were we? Oh, I did want to mention the red and the blue of the lightsabers. Like, probably the bad guys are red and the good guys are blue. I imagine that there's a relation there to Kabbalah where red, Geburah, represents judgment and force, which is what the Sith are all about. Blue is more representative of
Hesed,
which is mercy, growth, forgiveness, that sort of stuff.
but they totally represent the two different poles of the Kabbalah, which is one's the pillar of mercy, one's the pillar of severity.
And so, yeah, so the Jedi would be, mercy, and then the Sith would be severity.
But they're obviously both flawed because they're two bipolar sects.
And then we're seeing the rise of the Skywalker, which Luke is already related to the solar deity and the solar force. And so we may see the title of Skywalker replace Jedi. So it will actually be balanced.
Because when everyone's a Skywalker, it's not important who's a blood Skywalker, I guess.
And then if we're going to keep talking about Kabbalah, because we can talk about Kabbalah because we did the Kabbalah episode. Because now that you've heard the Kabbalah episode, you're a Kabbalah expert.
Yeah, you know everything that we talked about Kabbalah.
You are an expert, and so are we. Right?
Right.
Okay, right.
Right.
Okay, so
Then you're Hebrew.
you got Darth Vader and Darth Sidious and Darth.
Yeah, what's Darth about?
I think that's maybe an obvious, like, Da'at, which is
Da'ath Vader.
Darth Vader, yeah.
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Like the people of knowledge, like the seekers of knowledge and the users of knowledge. We're going to talk about this. We also got to bring up the Jedi or the Jed. What is a Jed?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with this one.
So a Jed is mentioned in the story of Jacob or of Israel, where he takes off from his brother after usurping his blessing from his father and running off because he was afraid that his brother was going to kill him. Basically, he runs into the land that would be Israel, basically the area that would be the freaking spot with the, basically it's the place where is modern day Israel or Palestine, whatever the hell you want to call it, even though Palestine was made by European settlers or colonizers. And if you're down for calling them Palestine, you're kind of down for that whole European colonization.
I'll be honest, I don't know what you're talking about, but just don't get us blown up, Andrew. Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, anyways, so he gets the vision of, shit going down and God and stuff. And that's where he, erects a Jed or, a standing stone, and he anoints it with oils and stuff. And then he also, the one thing you gotta remember about those stories is that, he was part of, some mystic tribe. They were practicing weird mysticisms and magics and stuff. So he raised a freaking stone and he anointed it with oil and he did his little rituals and he proclaimed this area that God lived.
And the lightsaber going to the hand of the chosen wielder is a lot like Excalibur being pulled from the stone.
Yes, but the whole Jedi is people who can raise their energy, and it's represented through the lightsaber.
Okay.
It's about raising your energy to heaven, or becoming perfectly aligned.
Well, to speak to that, this is something that I've never seen expounded anywhere else, so I'm a little proud of finding this one myself. On Luke's helmet, when he's in the trench run, he's red 5, I think, at the time.
Yeah, he's red 5.
Which is also 5 on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life is Geburah,
which is red.
Just
so he's Geburah in attack mode when he's attacking the Death Star.
Right, and that's some really that's the Force itself.
Yeah. He's got all the little markers saying oh, this is the guy.
So there's that. Then there's also on his helmet he has 5 V's. This is something I've observed both in the film, and I have a replica helmet of Luke's.
V's 5, right?
It's got 5 V's on it. My friend Brendan got me the helmet for Christmas, and it's awesome. And it has the 5 V's on it, just like it does in the film. Well, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean, Luke? Why don't you tell us?
It was really popularized by Aleister Crowley. It's in one of his journal entries under the Cry of the Fourth Aether.
Back to Aleister Crowley, are we?
Back to Aleister Crowley.
You can't get away from him in an occult podcast.
Yeah, no doubt. Basically, he's describing the motto of the Magister Templi, which is the master of the temple, which is somebody who's attained perfect understanding of the universe.
So in occult orders, you kind of use the Tree of Life as kind of a stepping stone or a advance your character kind of game. where like each level of attainment is represented by a sphere, and so like you work your way from like 10 to 1, and you're like no one attains 1, like no one does it. You can't do it.
So this would be like
impossible.
if 10 is the lowest and 1's the highest. This is like 3. This is pretty high up. This is after you've
Wait,
crossed
you got
the
that
abyss.
wrong. Like, 10 is the lowest, 1 is the highest, right?
In this,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it goes reverse in both ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, if 10 is the lowest and 1 is the highest, then master of the temple would be 3.
Yeah.
It's pretty high up. It's past the abyss. So it's prophesized on Luke's helmet that he'll be the one to cross the abyss. The V, it's 5 V's. In Latin means vivere universum vivus vici.
VC.
VC. I don't know how to do this Latin stuff.
You don't know your Latin, dude. You
I
got,
don't.
Like, I got some courses on Latin. I got like 3 courses on Latin.
Thank you,
should
Andrew.
learn.
And what does that
I
mean?
gotta learn them too.
So the phrase means, by the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe. Pretty great motto. That's what you want to attain to. You want to conquer the universe while still living by way of truth. So it's prophesied in A New Hope. Luke, as the New Hope, will attain immortality by way of truth while still living, which is what you kind of see him complete in The Last Jedi, where he bilocates, he skywalks, and he attains his immortality in the Force through that act.
He also did the Matrix move. He pulled an EO.
He did.
He totally did it. And I was like, that looks cool, but somehow I'm just like, I don't like that scene. I don't know why. It looked cool. It looked good. It was just like, it's kind of dumb.
Well, it had a lot of gravity to it, where they wanted to give Mark Hamill a good send-off, and they needed him to be heroic. And Mark Hamill went through a lot of training just for that dumb
Dude,
little scene.
But
basically.
like everyone like clapped when they showed where he really was and how he's floaty meditating.
I felt that.
Everyone loved it. Everyone loved it. Like,
I felt
if
that.
If it was more like, oh, like he's just there and doing his thing. If they didn't just like, oh, now you're gone and you disappeared. Unless it's more of like, it'd be really cool if it's all like, oh, I didn't die. I just like lost my center of location. So like Luke Skywalker can come in and out. It just takes like shitload of focus for him. You know, that'd be way cooler. Like he's just non-local at that point. Like he like sort of like somehow fucked up in his move.
It's arguable
That'd be cool.
what he is capable of, could have been capable of had he used that power more, or if he...
Or maybe he's like Babaji, where he can just like recreate his body and just like appear somewhere.
That's basically what happened. I don't
I
necessarily...
would do that. I like if I was them, I would have that, and he would be like, "Oh yeah, I can come in and train you, but then I'm out. I'm so done with this bullshit."
Because your theory is that when Kylo Ren does put the lightsaber through him, it is hurting Luke.
Yeah, that's actually shown because it flashes to him, and he like obviously looks like he's feeling it.
So, and it also is like the energetic, emotional idea of putting the lightsaber through him, and he is in his like emotional body. I definitely felt that charge you were talking about when everyone cheered. Like, I felt that. I was like, oh yes, that's amazing. And I think that's because it did...
We want Luke to be a badass.
Yeah, it completed his namesake as Skywalker. And I don't think there was anything wimpy or Jake Skywalker or pussy about it. I think it was cool. So I guess I can get nailed to the cross about that. Whatever. I thought... I'm with Henry Zabrowski on this one. In his unpopular opinion, The Last Jedi was really good.
Alright, so if I was to do it better...
There's some stuff I didn't like, but...
I would have him show up on the bridge after they like fight off all the guards. Oh shit. After they like fight off all the guards. And... he just shows up, and then Kylo Ren fights him, and Rey tries to get in between them. Like, so you go from one fight scene to the next fight scene, and then it's like a little bit more of like a kung fu movie, like they're trying to do, but like an old school kung fu movie, where you got like the one person who's really, really good. But, you know, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Luke Skywalker would be all Li Bai versus Kylo Ren, while like Rey's just jumping in between and Luke's like slapping her out of the way. You know, that'd be really, really cool. And then you could have had him die there, or like then he could have then done the disappeary ghost thing.
We don't have much more to cover. There's probably a few little tidbits we're leaving out, but yeah, let's get some predictions. Like, it sort of seems like maybe Rey will become force possessed by Luke, and then maybe, I can't do names ever, apparently.
Poe Dameron?
No! we got Rey, and then
Kylo-
and Kylo Ren is going to
Skyplo Ray and Skyplo Ren.
yeah, Skyplo Ren is going to get Force possessed by the Emperor, and so you're going to have Luke fighting against the Emperor.
Oh yeah, and Kylo and Ray will get possessed by Luke.
Yeah, that's
And
what
like
I said.
it's gonna be Force possession.
I totally just said that.
We still want it to be Force possession.
So
No, you said the
that's-
first one. You didn't say the second one getting possessed.
If you say so.
Yeah.
So that's
You're gonna edit it and you're gonna be like, shit. You're right.
so that's our prediction pre episode 9 coming out, because there will be a time when
Or they
episode
could
9
hear this and they'd be like, fuck that. We have to rewrite the entire thing.
that's very
And
flattering.
then it'll suck. You know, like we would have had it right, and then like they'll change it.
So I think we may actually see Mark Hamill, the actor, in episode 9, even if he is a ghost. I think it's possible that the Emperor and Luke could take physical form of some sort or take up residence in those characters. That's my prediction as of now.
That would be really cool.
I have no other predictions.
If they Force possessed.
And then they have to somehow reconcile everything in the middle instead of one side or the other somehow.
Or they do something really stupid where they have like this like double-sided like fight where like Luke Skywalker and frickin' or even better, the Emperor and Darth Vader are fighting, but like they keep going in and out of each other and doing like, you know, fighting inside their bodies and outside their bodies while they're fighting each other,
Right,
and
that's-
getting possessed.
That's kind of what I imagine.
You know, something like that.
That sounds really cool.
Where like they'll pop into each other and try to hack at each other, and then they'll like get smacked out of each other from hits and blows.
Or
and-
maybe they'll just be like vibrating voices in the background of both characters' heads, or they'll be like,
do it.
yeah, that kind of a thing. Who knows? Now I'm excited.
You know, that'd be really cool, but I don't think they would do it because it's Disney, and they're not gonna be avant-garde like Walt Disney wanted to be.
Because that's
Because-
pretty weird what we just described. That's pretty psychedelic, creepy, far out.
It's more of like something like the Chinese would be into. You know, they'd be into that stuff. They'd be like, oh, ghosts and like possession.
Speaking of weird stuff we don't really understand, there's this conception in Egyptian mythology of like whoever seduces the other one is the more powerful one, which there's a little bit of that in Star Wars, like whoever can seduce the other one back to the other side. That's very much what happens in the end of Return of the Jedi, where Luke is trying to pull Vader over back to the light and Vader's trying to pull him to the dark. And this is a weird metaphor, but in Egyptian mythology, Set supposedly seduces Osiris or Horus, I can't remember which at this point. They're both the same thing, right, really. But when Set ejaculates, Horus puts his hand between his legs and like catches it in his hand and then throws it into the Nile. And then later,
That's so weird that it's just having like gay sex.
yeah, that's why you don't really hear about this too much. It's weird. It's just an idea. It's just an idea. Like, I don't know. Then it gets weirder because you got Horus now. Horus ejaculates on some lettuce, which is Set's favorite food, which means Set is a rabbit. So, it's been settled. Set eats the lettuce with the semen on it. And then when they stand before the gods, trying to determine who's the winner or who's the most powerful, they like use their psychic powers. Like, where is the Set semen? Because Set is like, oh, my semen is inside of Horus. And Horus is like, yeah, we'll check. And then they check and it's like, it's in the river. What do you mean it's in the river? And then you got Horus and they're like, well, where's Horus's seed? And it's inside of Set because he ate the lettuce. Now that just seems weird and pornographic in a weird.
And the lettuce.
It's just gross. Like
Yeah.
next time you have a salad, just think of that. So I fucked up salads forever
Yeah,
for you.
salad with ranch. Just
It's-
think of that. Just
Oh,
envision it.
ruined salads. Sorry.
Yeah, you can't get ranch anymore.
I think we just ruined our podcast forever now.
No, you
Thanks,
did.
Egypt.
You did.
Well,
You talked about
why
historically-
am I bringing this up? Well, it's basically like, well, it has its corollary in Star Wars because Luke is like, no, there's still good in you. I still sense good in you.
You still ate my semen.
If you could break it down to just a metaphor, because we're such a sex obsessed and repressed culture that we have to kind of fixate on it. But if you just get past that and just is like, no, the essence of good is still within my father, Set, which means he's still a little bit Osiris. Whereas Vader has failed to completely penetrate the soul of Luke, you know.
So there's that going on in Star Wars.
There's that going on. I still sense
You
good
didn't know
in
it,
you.
but there was ancient Egyptian mythology going on the whole time.
And it's all right
in
there.
like a space Hindu, space cowboy, space samurai fucking flick, you know?
Hell yeah.
You know, it's got everything. It's got underworld, it's got drugs, it's got clones, it's got magic space powers, space wizards.
Space wizards.
A space wizard did it.
And you got ace pilots, too.
Yeah, and World War II tropes, as well as battles that reminisce of World War II, because that is not how space travel works.
Oh, no way.
No fucking way.
No, there's nothing realistic about Star Wars ever in space.
It's either A, super advanced to the point where they can do that, or B, it's the dumbest fucking shit when it comes to their space physics. Light speed, do you know how fast it takes you to get somewhere on light speed?
So you know what? When they introduced the idea of fuel, guess what? I don't care.
They only mention it twice. In the entirety of Star Wars, they mention it twice.
Like, how are you going to get all bent out of shape
Until-
about realism in a universe where there's sound in space? I'm sorry. If you make Star Wars realistic in any way, the TIE fighters don't make that noise, and it's just not Star Wars.
Well, you gotta say that, like, that sounds so cool. Like, even when Sebulba, like, flies past in his freaking pod racer, which is the only good thing about Phantom Menace. Only good thing is pod racing, because we all played that game on the N64.
And the lightsaber fights are really good in the prequels.
Oh yeah, the lightsaber fights. At least in the first one. I don't know about the second one. The second one, nah, I don't know about the lightsaber fights. Let's talk a bit about the second one and the vagina boat.
I do remember there's a lot of vaginas in the scene where all the Jedis are fighting all the droids, I believe in episode 2.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones.
There are hella vaginas all over
like,
that.
okay, so like Anakin and Padme are like trapped by the bug things, and they were in the underworld before that, and like that's when the bug things caught them. And then they're on like this like arena being pulled out in this little like gondola that's shaped like a vagina. It looks exactly like one. They're like kissing as they go through like the gate or the threshold, and they got this whole thing going on of like sex, you know, and they're not supposed to be having sex, because I guess he's like training up to be a Catholic priest or something, because I didn't realize the Jedi, like, you're not supposed to get laid, because I thought Obi-Wan was totally banging bitches,
He probably was.
you know.
Nobody told him not to.
I bet he was like banging spacer chicks on Tatooine.
Where do you think
like,
Rey came from?
Yeah, he's either Luke's,
Yeah, they're gonna
like she's either Luke's daughter or Obi-Wan's,
and
like,
probably Luke's at this point.
great granddaughter or something.
And if not
Or
Luke's
granddaughter.
successor, then spiritual successor. So
Yeah.
they're gonna. I mean, they pretty much revealed that in the title of the last movie. So what are you gonna do? I did want to mention Order 66 before we closed out, because Order 66 is curiously a lot like the Friday the 13th lore, where the Pope issued the arrest and of course the subsequent burning at the stake of like all the Knights Templar all at one time. So like all the Templar just got all arrested all at the same time. Just
That
like
was Order 66
yeah.
on Friday the 13th.
I don't think it was called Order 66, but you get the gist of it. Somebody was relating Order 66 to the Quillipoth somewhere else on the internet, I read, which was interesting, because the Quillipoth is, of course, accessed through the,
66 tunnels.
I guess, you go through Da'ath to get there.
You gotta be a Darth or a Doth.
Yeah, so that connection was there, and
So the dark side is utilizing the inverse side of Kabbalah, which we never even got to in our Kabbalah.
well, I don't really know enough about the Quillipoth to really...
That's a whole other episode in and of itself.
I'm not even pronouncing it the same each time I say it, so I don't really think I'm
Yeah,
qualified.
well, it's Hebrew, so you do it just how you do it.
I read Kenneth Anger's book about it twice. I did not understand it more the second time. So yeah, no, I punching above my weight class here, and sometimes. Of course, I guess we could. The most cliche thing that you hear is always like, well, in German, Vater means father. Yes, it does. So you might have known that Vader was Luke's father if you were hip to German, I suppose. Oh,
Darth Father.
and then also
Knowledge Father. Father Knowledge.
And then let's and now I want to wrap it up with pointing out Fnords from Metropolis, because they made me sit through Metropolis in film class, and the whole time all I was thinking was Star Wars. It makes a lot of sense. The father of the factory has a son, Freder, who falls in love with the woman savior figure, I can't remember her name, Maria, falls in love with Maria, who's obviously a parallel to Leia because she leads the people and gives them hope on their journey towards balance, which is what Freder is ultimately destined to become as the son of I think, is it Johann, I think his name is? As the son of the owner of the factory, he's destined to become the mediator, which Maria gets all the factory workers stoked on down in the catacombs between their shifts. She's like, you know, the hands have to do the building and the brain has to do the planning, but there needs to be a heart to mediate between both of them, which is, of course, Freder, the son of the owner of the factory. So you got both Skywalkers. You got Vader and you got Luke. And then there's also this funny scene where...
Well, you have the archetypal tyrannical father, and then you have the son trying to redeem him.
Thanks, Jordan.
And he has to do that through the divine feminine, which is the heart.
And then you're right back to Luke being the Grail, or...
He's being Percival, seeker of the Grail, the only one pure enough to find it.
The New Hope. He's the heart, represents the heart, the balance, the
like,
balance of the Force.
And that was like the
Tiferet.
whole thing about when he got anointed a knight, when he actually was knighted. It was because he didn't give in. Well, he did give in to the dark side, and that's the one thing you need to elaborate more on.
He does. So
yeah.
So there's there's a connection to Metropolis. There's even that scene where Maria is running away from the mad scientist guy who wears a black glove, I think on his right hand, could be his left hand, doesn't matter. And it's not very exciting after you've seen a lightsaber fight, but Maria is running away from this evil wizard character all in black who's wielding a lightsaber. A flashlight on her, which is reminiscent of a lightsaber.
It's called a torch.
It's called a torch.
Mate.
Yeah, so he has a flashlight, which, if you've ever been a child, is a lightsaber. Speaking of lightsabers, and speaking of Luke being the son of Vader, there's a piece of Luke that really didn't get resolved at the end of Return of the Jedi, and if I don't talk about it on my podcast, I'm going to have to keep telling it piecemeal, one person by each person. So I want to talk about some of the deeper hidden meaning in The Last Jedi and how it relates to Return of the Jedi.
All right, you reconcile how shitty everybody thought they portrayed Skywalker in A Last Jedi.
Correct, because there are problems in that film, but I do not.
Which is the funniest thing, because we absolutely agree about every aspect of the movie, every scene, except whether it was a good movie or a bad movie.
Correct. I liked it. You thought it was not so great.
Nah, not really.
You'll come around to my side eventually.
I don't know why those space cannons were arcing.
Because nothing is real in Star Wars. It's all bullshit. None of it is realistic in terms of space.
I mean, I'm not saying it didn't look cool, but if they were around a planet, I would get it.
Okay,
I would understand.
Sure, that would be much cooler. Yeah. I admit.
If they're going around a planet.
I almost think it was a brazen, F you, this is not realistic, let's just deal with it. That's what I liked about it, but okay. So
I get they're trying to do the World War II thing.
So we will ignore all the other things you didn't like about The Last Jedi, because I'm sure there's a list 100 items long, and you've already made up your mind to hate The Last Jedi. And if you haven't, then you're probably on the edge of your seat about what I'm going to say now. And if you're not, you might be on the edge of your seat ready to write me an email about what an idiot I am. And go ahead. I can handle it. I'm an Uber driver. I've been told I'm an idiot about this many, many times. So
I don't see why they don't just send tungsten rods going hyperspeed velocity into anything that the Empire builds now, or the First Order, whatever the fuck they're calling the evil force now.
It's because nothing in Star Wars has ever been realistic. And in fact, the only realistic thing in Star Wars are the Force powers, which have all been, including the Force Skyping, has been detailed in what a city is in India. India in Hindu tradition,
not a City city.
Yeah, Siddhi something. Siddhi, which is kind of like Sith, I guess.
Yeah.
Cities. So when you meditate or when you're on the spiritual path, you gain cities, of which Force Choke is one of them. Bilocation is another one of them. You got walking on water, you got healing wounds, you got basically everything that's in Star Wars has been written about in Hindu literature. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, well, it's a space Hindu reality where the force powers are the Atman or the Brahman.
So I don't want to hear anyone ranting and raving about how the bridging of minds was stupid and not a Force thing and unrealistic. Give me a break. Nothing about the Force is quote unquote realistic unless you subscribe to some of the weird esoteric stuff that we do, in which case it might be the only realistic thing about Star Wars.
Okay, so
I'm not even sure people have sex in Star Wars. Do they just kiss and babies come out? I think so.
the Force powers are kind of detailed in their little Jedi books. They're kind of very, very similar to this whole Eastern esoteric path of like martial arts and meditation.
I gotta cut the foreplay and just explain what I'm trying to say. So
Alright.
on Return of the Jedi, when they're on the bridge and it's Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and they're about to fight, I believe again because they've already fought a little bit, but Luke is now hiding under like a stairwell or something.
Yeah. Luke's using a force called obfuscation, which is actually a dark side force.
Interesting.
Because that's what they're all using to get around, like Ventress. She uses obfuscation like no other.
Okay.
It's what all the Sith
So
use
Luke
to
is-
hide their presence.
So Luke is using that under the stairwell.
Yeah, that's why Vader couldn't see him.
And
He's
yeah.
right there. He's like right there.
Good point. He's looking for him, but then something that Vader says trips off Luke's imagination, and then Vader's like, "Oh, your imagination has betrayed you. You have a sister.
No, your feelings betray.
Your feelings betray you. You have a sister." And
Sister.
sister.
You have a sister. It's such a cool line because James Earl Jones is like the greatest voice actor. But if if you ever seen like the footage without the voiceover, it is the funniest because the guy who played Darth Vader's actual stature had this really high British voice. And so
Excellent.
he actually did all the parts with every line, and it is the funniest thing.
Oh, we need to see that.
And it is like it's like the one scene where he's telling everybody on Leia's ship. He's like, search the cabins, any passengers, I want them alive. And it's like funniest thing is it's all very high, and it's just the funniest.
I want them alive.
Yeah.
I want them alive.
Tear this shit apart.
Tear the ship apart.
So
It's just
basically, Luke's feelings do betray him, and you see everything that Yoda warned him about become true. If you are too attached to your family, it's going to lead to the dark side. Well, that's exactly what does lead him to the dark side. His
and he
feelings
does give in.
He does give in because, and you can hear it in John Williams' soundtrack. It's a sad moment, but it's really beautiful and really awesome scene in the movie because Luke pulls out his lightsaber and just freaks out on Vader.
And he's swinging wild and freaking
Fast,
far, and
hard.
He's doing like one of the Jedi styles because they have it detailed in their little book for kids. Unlike the Jedi manual, it's like the one that's like the power style. If you played the Jedi Knight games, it's the red saber style where you do all the damage.
So he's used obfuscation. He's freaking out at Darth Vader. He's basically failing right now at this point in the story. And John Williams' soundtrack emphasizes this.
Yeah, it's good music, but it's like, wow, this is like, it's almost different than any other of the music in all of Star Wars.
It's very, very tragic. And then when Luke eventually does cut his hand off,
He realizes that he had his hand cut off. He's on the same path as his father.
you don't believe me on this point, freeze frame the movie on Luke's face in this scene, and it is pure rage. And that is how he beats down Vader. So even though he does redeem his father,
He embraced the dark side.
he embraced the dark side to defeat his father in combat during his initiation into being a Jedi in his final trial. So I do not agree that Luke Skywalker is incapable of drawing his green lightsaber at Ben while Ben is sleeping if Luke did observe a strong enough sense of darkness, and if that darkness made Luke feel that same fear that Vader made him feel. Like,
Because he noticed that.
because
Okay,
he might know that part of the Sith initiation is you have to kill your parents. If he saw that Ben was willing to kill his own mother, then
and father.
and father,
His two friends.
his two friends
And sister.
and his sister, the people he cares the most about. I think it's perfectly conceivable that within the realm of Star Wars, where there's the light and the dark and the Force and karmatic lessons, that that Luke had the same freak out he had on the bridge in Return of the Jedi as he did in Last Jedi, and he drew his saber because he never fully defeated that fear or that demon in his own training. And when he pulled the lightsaber, he might not have intended to kill Ben beyond the initial moment that he pulled his saber, but that was long enough for Ben to wake up and be like, "Oh, you're going to kill me." And then that is how Luke ultimately failed Ben, and when Ben went to the dark side and became Kylo Ren.
Well, he was already going down the dark path. That was the thing.
So that's my point, is that all the people that say Luke would have never done that, Luke never would have drawn his lightsaber in Ben's tent, he never would have gone to go kill him, BS.
It would have been way cooler.
Like, he would have, that is totally conceivable. That is within Luke's story arc, and it has to do with his path of atonement, and it makes perfect sense to me.
They could have made it more... Well, okay, wait. That was told through Kylo Ren's perspective, right?
Well, that was part of Rian Johnson's brilliance. I know I'm going to get nailed to the cross for saying those words all at once.
Yeah, you saying that is just, you lost so many fans right there. We can just like put this podcast away and just like quit now.
Well, you guys still got Andrew to disagree with me.
Yeah, dude. Like, you can't get away with that.
So, okay.
Like, I just got like all those followers. Nah.
So you got
don't
that was
our
part
numbers.
of this. That was right. Don't hurt us. That was part of the story. Is that you don't really have an objective view of what happened in that moment. You don't really know. It's sort of a mystery. And that is really clever. And it lets you question, would Luke do that? And so I questioned, would Luke do that? And I went back, and I think that's conceivable that he could have.
But he also confirmed it in the movie. I remember that.
I mean, part of his hand is mechanical. I mean, Luke is not entirely...
It'd have been way cooler if he had like a sensei moment where he took fucking little Ben out and fucking like, okay, well, are you gonna try it? Are you gonna do it? You know, kind of moment.
They had that would be completely different. Like, instead of him sneaking into his hut at night.
Yeah, well, like, he walks away, right? Like, there's two ways they could have done it. They could have, like, he walks away and then the next day he, like, does, like, pulls him off and then, like, he's like, okay, are you going to attack me? Like, you know, like, are you ready for this duel, you know, little kid? Or, you know, he walks away and then, like, that night, like, as he's walking out of Ben's little hut room, you know, Ben gets out, sees him, he's like, what were you doing? You know, kind of shit. And then they start fighting, you know, stuff like that.
There's really good, like,
that would be cool.
Are we going to fight? Are we not going to fight?
But
are you going to kill me? Or you're not going to kill me in John Wick? I
feel
like
if they did stuff like that, that would, like, more like samurai shit. That would have been cool.
Man, I love John Wick. I'm ready to watch it right now. Okay, so I think we covered Star Wars pretty well. I think we covered what we wanted to cover. There's lots of Fnords in Star Wars. We could come back and do another one if we need to someday. But I think that's the episode.
I think there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember it right now. It was like you just like came and went. But anyways.
Well, there's the whole generational aspect where, you know, you could conceptualize the prequels as Rome and the fall of the Republic, and then you could conceptualize 4 through 6 as the fall of the Empire, and then you could conceptualize 7, 8, and 9 as the beginning of the medieval era, and then you kind of made the point that, like, our generation may symbolize a new hope, whereas the old generation sort of symbolizes the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, because of the non-linear of the releases of the story, we have our entire timeline kind of screwed up. The only one that's on the right track is the new ones, even though like they're kind of like we're getting those now. So anyways, A New Hope is the generation after the ones that we got when we were growing up, which were 1, 2, and 3. So those came out when we were kids, but we were the New Hope generation because as Star Wars came out, they should have come out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right.
You know.
So basically, in our kids, the Force will awaken.
Yeah. So this is the generation now, is the Force Awakens kids who apparently don't need training; they just have these abilities.
Right. So the Chinese the Chinese super psychics we talked about,
the Akira children
we talked about in the
Because this is
Akira.
being recorded on the anniversary of Akira.
Yeah, we are recording this on the anniversary of Akira. I'm Luke. It's Father's Day. We felt like this all lined up. So,
Oh, and we got asked about Star Wars by some random person on the street. It was cool.
yeah, we got asked about Star Wars Day randomly at a Chipotle. Then they actually asked us about the Return of the Jedi thing that I talked about.
It was like super synchronistic.
It was really synchronistic. So I hope you're listening, Keith. I hope you enjoy the show.
Shout out.
Shout out. Yeah, man. Thank you for dropping in on us. You can always drop us a line, give us a show suggestion. Speaking of which, you can always reach out to us at
Yeah, where are we at?
we are on Gmail at thewholerabbitpodcast@gmail.com, which I have not checked in a while. My bad. There's
Yeah,
also
dude.
you can check it too. There's also lukemadrid at
Nah.
gmail.com.
I can, but I don't.
lukemadrid@gmail.com. Then there's also Instagram, the_whole_rabbit_. That's the username on Instagram. We're there.
Unfortunately.
I'm going to have to get a Facebook page because I want to start like paying for a little bit of advertising because that's the one thing Facebook does really well. So I'll probably be on Facebook soon. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on the iTunes.
Do we got
Pod-
crowdfunding yet?
No, we don't have crowdfunding yet, but we probably will start teaching some rudimentary magic classes and maybe like do Mystery Science Theater type audio tracks for different films or different shows.
Because that's been something I've been wanting to do forever.
We may have exclusive shows, but we want to have like content that's deep and meaningful that you can really dig into and kind of go even further down the rabbit hole, so to speak. You get more of the whole rabbit. But we don't have that content yet. We're working on building more of it. We just need more time and more money. And well, we can definitely try and make more time, but there's only so much time in the day and we're busy folks. So if you want to support us at this point, I don't know, put your credit card aside. Be ready to, when we start, we're going to have to post a PayPal and post our...
By the time this is out, we will have a crowdfunding source.
I'm on Venmo's Luke Madrid. Just send me money. That's cool.
And the link will be in the description. So this will happen.
And on Venmo, my little icon is actually Kylo
So-
Ren. So that's how you'll know it's me.
So the link will be in the description if you want to be one of the crowds that sources us, because that's what
We don't even have the
crowdsourcing is.
page yet. So that might not be until like the next episode or the one after that. But anyway,
No, it's got to be on this one. You got to do it.
I guess you don't have to edit the outros too much because who the fuck's listening at this point? But
So like, share, subscribe, do the things.
I should have said that at the beginning of the episode.
No, you say it at the end because the algorithm will do it.
Okay, so if you actually listen this far, especially into the outro,
And you can stand the sound of mine or Luke's voice.
please give us a 5-star review in iTunes. That helps us go up in the ratings and allows us to get
Or
more visibility.
wherever you are listening, give us a thumbs up or the whatever.
A thumbs up and
Whatever the value rating system that whatever thing you use to hear
tell
us.
your friends, tell your family, tell one other person.
Annoy somebody about
Annoy
us.
somebody about us. It helps us get more viewers.
Punch them in the face and then show them the app.
You know?
That with us on the top.
Tell them there's some idiot that thinks The Last Jedi is a good movie.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, this guy's such a chump. He likes The Last Jedi. Listen to this shit.
So if like Ryan Johnson has a book signing or like is it a thing, there'll be like not a line.
No.
There won't be a line. I'll just be able to walk right up and be like,
I'm your one fan.
No.
I'm your one fan.
No.
Are you gonna put Gordon Hewitt Levitt in your next movie? Please?
No.
if Star Wars continues to be a thing, if we ever become any successful anything, I want to be in Star Wars. Who doesn't?
Okay, so like I believe Star Wars should stop becoming a live action thing
And just
they
make it
should
all CGI?
Yeah, they should just do really good CGI. They can do anything they want after that, but I want it to be good CGI. I want them to do like real people doing real movements.
I want to have a rabbit helmet and I want a pink lightsaber.
Yeah, that stupid shit. Like make it the new Fortnite. Just make it CG. Like don't try to make it serious at that point.
I want to have a vaporwave lightsaber that's pink. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening.
That releases fumes because Vapor is part of Star Wars.
Yep. It totally
Palpatine,
is.
Palpatine listens to Vaporwave.
Yep.
That's why when he gets off, it's all.
Exactly. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Eat carrots, shoot lasers.
What he said.
Shoot lasers.